What's up peeps, welcome back to Gurney's Projects on this cold December afternoon. Today on the show we're going to be changing my MX5 NB's rear tail lights for some Skyline style ones. Okay, so it's not going to be quite as simple as swapping out the original NB tail lights for some cheap nasty aftermarket ones. What I'm actually planning to do is install an NBFL version, because I prefer these without this orange lens, and then install one of these halo LED rings. So what we'll have to do is warm up this light and split the lens from the rest of the body, and then glue it in the ring and wire it all up correctly. I've seen this done a couple of times on other videos and it looks really awesome, so let's crack on, give it a go, and also we can do this indoors where it's a lot warmer. So before we can reside in the warm comfort of the house, we need to remove all the trim which is blocking our access to the back of the lights. This only takes a few minutes to do. There is one Phillips screw in the corner holding down the box, and then a handful of plastic clips which you can use a small flathead screwdriver to remove. Once you've removed all the fixings, you can carefully pop out the trim and access the back of the lights. When you can access the back of the lights, you will see there are 3 fixings holding them in total. There are 2 10mm nuts in the back, and then one Phillips head screw on the top. Remove these and gently pry the light away from the bodywork. Once loose, remove the plug from the wiring loom, and then gently pull out the light, exposing the other side of the grommet, and just gently pull the grommet out. Be careful when you do this because the whole light will then become loose in your hands, so don't drop it. And then one is removed. Just repeat the same process on the other side. Let's get inside that warm house. Okay, you join me in the kitchen where it's much warmer. So first things first, we need to test out our LED rings, because we don't want to go through all the effort of splitting the lights in half and then putting these in and they don't even light up. So let's test those out first. I've got a little 12 volt power supply here, so I'm just going to literally just hook them up and just see if they turn on. Okay, so that's a really good start. They both work as hoped. I'm not too sure how well the camera picks this up, but you can actually see the individual LEDs around the ring. So the idea is that when it's behind the lens will obscure the little LEDs and make it look like one consistent halo neon ring, which is obviously what we want. So let's dig out the heat gun and split these lights in half.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
Okay, so with regards to the heating method, I'm going to use an oven. I was going to use the heat gun, but to be honest, it would be a bit awkward holding the light, which can get quite heavy after a while, with one hand and the heat gun with the other, and you end up heating up one area hotter than the rest of it. You end up cracking or damaging the lens. This way, it's a lot more uniform and easier to do, to be honest. And also, we can do things while we're waiting for it to heat up. Okay, so just set your oven to fan mode and set your temperature to 80 degrees. Now my oven, it looks like 100, but the 100 dot is actually there. 80 is about there. So what we'll do is we'll let that heat up. Then once it's up to temperature, we'll put the light in for 15 minutes. Okay, so first things first, I've put a cloth over the table, mainly to protect the lens from getting any extra scratches on it, and I guess protect the table. First thing we need to do is just remove this wiring loom from the car. It should be fairly straightforward. The only tricky bit is this sort of clip here, so that might pose us a little challenge, but if you just use a screwdriver you can sort of jimmy it out. Obviously do it carefully so you don't damage the wires. Next, what you need is a T7 Torx screwdriver, and you've got 1, 2 and 3 of these little screws to get out. You've got to take these out, otherwise it won't release the lens. Okay, so now we're ready for some heat.
And in it goes for 15 minutes. If you're enjoying this video, please hit the like button below your screen and subscribe to the channel and hit that bell for more videos in the future. This is all free.
Okay, so while the oven's heating up, let's start with the wiring. So, the wires we need to worry about and the bulb we need to worry about is this one here. That's your side light and brake light bulb. So you've got a white one, and you've got a black one, and you've got a green one. So the black one is a common earth, and the white one is for the side light side of the bulb, and the green one is for the brake light side of the bulb. So obviously we still need our brake lights to work, so we're going to leave that one well alone. So what we need is the feed, the 12 volt feed from the white wire going to our LED ring, and we need to share the earth coming back with the LED ring as well as still earthing the side light bulb. So that's what we have to do. So really we have to cut that one and cut that one to start off with. Okay, so next we need to prepare the LED ring. Just so you know, this is 120mm diameter on this. And I think what we're going to do is I'm just going to cut these little clips, or whatever they are, off the top, just in case they interfere with anything. So what we need to do is cut this little chip box off, because that won't thread through the 5mm hole I'm going to drill into the back of the light. So you have to cut it here, thread the wires through, and then resolder this on the back of the light. And that's all done. So not very entertaining video footage, but it needs doing. Okay, so that beeping you can hear is the oven telling me that the light is ready. So my only bit of advice I'm really going to give is the glue on the light that holds the lens to the main body of the light is very sticky. It's almost like chewing gum. So if you're wearing any nicer clothes, definitely remove them for this and put on an old apron or something, or an old t-shirt, because you don't want to get it on there. And obviously, safety first. Going to use my welding gloves. It's only me recording this, so I'm just going to grab out the oven and then come back and show you how to pry it apart. Okay, so what you need to do is just find a little pry spot and just gently roll your screwdriver or pry bar or whatever you're going to use. Just very gently pry it, and the glue should just completely give. If you're struggling and it doesn't feel like it wants to easily give away, don't force it, because you will crack the lens. It's all a bit vulnerable while it's hot. And you just have to work around. Lovely stuff. Spider-Man. There you go. So we might have a bit of an issue getting all that glue back in the right place, but we'll sort it out. So what I'm going to do is set this to one side and carry on with the soldering. So the ring, we can just keep that to one side for now. We've got our soldering iron. I just want to say right now that I'm in no way some sort of soldering expert or electronics engineer. So this is probably going to look quite sketchy to anyone who does soldering for a living. So what I need to do is solder these wires for the ring to the white and black wires on the loom. All we have to do is resolder these two black parts together, Sorry about the shadow. Resolder these two black parts together, but including the white one. And just straight up solder the red to the white there as well. So then that's all our power flow sorted out, and then all we have to do is solder the tail end of the ring when we get the light back together. Okay, so after sorting out some serious issues with my soldering iron, I've managed to solder what I needed. It will basically be like that. My hand is like the body of the light, now we're sticking out the back. Then we have to resolder red to white on here. Power from the car, which would run the tail light, comes down this white wire here, connects to the red one, and then goes to the light and then illuminates it. And then the negative comes down the white, and then it joins in the common earth for the tail light. So that's how that will work. It looks like a bit of a mess, but it's really simple, really. Just need to get a decent soldering iron. Okay, so now we've done all the dull, awkward wiring, it's time for the fun bit, which is gluing our LED ring inside our lens. Now, on this MX5 lens, there is a bit of a lens system in here where there's like a rebate in the plastic. It's kind of like a reflector type material like you'd find on a bike. So what we're going to do is use some clear builder's type glue, like stick-saw type stuff. You can use the silicone, anything that's clear really, and we'll set and glue this in. And we'll place that in there, glue that in place, keep our wires at the top there just to keep everything out of the way. And then while that's setting, we can drill a hole in the back of the light box, or the light body, to let our wires through. Then what we do is we carefully place this on top, poking the wires through the hole, get it all sort of set up and ready, and then put it back in the oven. When the glue gets all hot, you can take it out, clip it back together, and then let it cool, and everything will be back to how it was before we started this job. So let's crack on and get this glued in. This is the inside of the light, and that's the top there. So we just need to drill a hole right there. So while this is setting, we're just going to clean up some of this glue. You don't want to have any dirt or glue or anything inside this lens when it goes back together. What I'm going to do is just use a bit of white spirits and cotton buds and kitchen roll and just try and clear some of this. Same goes for the actual body as well. We'll do the same thing here. We'll try and just tidy up all this. It's going to be a little bit tricky, but we'll get that cleaned up and come back to you when I'm ready to put it in the oven. It's all sealed back up. We put our little screws back in. 1 and 2 and 3. Don't get the oven any hotter than 80 degrees and don't leave it in any longer than 15 minutes, because what can happen is the whole light unit can start to warp in the heat, and then it's very hard to get it back together and then potentially to get it to refit. So just be careful with that. Okay, so it's all cooled down and cleaned up fairly nicely. I am going to give these a proper polish when they're back on the car. So now what we need to do is just finally wire up our wiring loom to these 2 wires here and just make ourselves a little hot glue gun gasket. Works a treat. So with the grommet complete, it's time to copy and paste on the other side. And here comes the part you've all been waiting for. Let's see how these bad boys look. look at that. That looks absolutely awesome. Not quite a Skyline, but about as close as I'm ever going to get anyway. As you can see, it was a fairly straightforward process. Obviously get some practice in there with your soldering, because that was a bit tricky, and I definitely need a bit more practice with that. And also be careful with your oven. Don't have it too hot or have them in there too long. 80 degrees for 15 minutes works absolutely perfectly, just enough to loosen the glue and just roll it off with a screwdriver. If you find it any sort of effort levering with the screwdriver, don't risk it, because you're just going to crack your lens and then you're going to have to order some more. So that about wraps it up for this year on Gurney's projects. Make sure you come and join me next year, where I've got plenty more projects in the pipeline. The MX5 is going to be a slow burning project, so from time to time I'm going to just upgrade bits and pieces, and when I've saved up enough money, hopefully something awesome like a turbo might go on there. So make sure you stay tuned and follow that on the playlists. So that's about it. So just wish you all Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and I'll see you next time. And remember, if it's broken, fix it, and if you need one, make one. I'll see you next time, guys.